All right, so if you've been following my channel, you know I've been giving you guys a lot of insight on how to start a clothing brand. Everything from choosing a name to registering a name, even to the top 5 reasons why you should even be in this game. Well, today we're going to move things forward, and I'm actually going to start talking about things you need to consider when you're actually sitting down starting to create your line. So let's talk about that. Let's look at all the pros and cons and things that you really need to consider. Next, here on Making the Brand. What's up, everybody? Rob Norman here from Planet Brooklyn Academy, and this is Making the Brand, the series where I give you guys insight and knowledge on how to start a clothing company, and if you already have one, how to make it better. As always, remember to hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything we drop when it drops. So you're ready to start a clothing line, and I'm not talking about start the actual brand. You're actually ready to start designing your clothing line. So there's a few things you guys have to think about when you start, because we get all wrapped up into creating the name and the marketing, and now it's time to sit down and really formulate the line. There's a couple of things we need to think about, and a couple of things a lot of people don't consider. The first thing is, when do you want to release your line? And do you want to release it in spring, summer? Do you want to release it in fall, winter? Personally, I feel that every new brand that starts should launch in the spring. The reason being is because, one, as a small company, when you're first starting, economically, it makes more sense to begin your line in spring because, one, it's lower overhead, and two, you have a lot more opportunity to launch more products in that time of the year than in the later time of the year. And what I mean by that is that in the spring, summertime, it is easier and cheaper to launch a t-shirt line because, one, more people are buying t-shirts, and two, the overhead for t-shirts is a lot lower. If you go into fall, you're starting to buy things like sweatshirts and jackets and things that are heavier, so it's going to be more expensive. So if you're tight for cash and you can't really blow out your line the way you want to, it makes more sense to open it up in spring because, again, you can go deeper into t-shirts, hats. You can do all sorts of things, socks, any type of accessory. You can really go in the spring. And once you make that money in the spring, you'll have enough money to go into the fall now and do your heavier things. So this is why I recommend you guys going into starting your lines and releasing your lines in the springtime, opposed to doing it in the fall, winter. Now, depending on what you are creating, if you are someone who's creating, winter coats, then naturally it makes more sense for you to do that in the fall. But if you are creating a streetwear line, again, streetwear lines are very easy to do because you have low overhead. If you're starting with t-shirts, everybody wears t-shirts. And you can still sell t-shirts in the winter. I sell t-shirts all year round, although that's not all I carry. But 95% of the time I'm selling t-shirts. So be sure you can still sell t-shirts in the winter, and because of global warming, you notice that winter is a lot shorter than what it used to be. So you can always do that. So the t-shirts in the summer, in the spring and summer, easy to move. And I recommend that that's when you actually push your line and start. All right. The second thing you need to know is that, one, do not try to put everything out there at one time. I know that when you're ready to launch a line, you're excited, you've got all these ideas and you want to put everything out there. Pace yourself. Don't try to release every idea you have in your head at one time. Trust me, I've learned from personal experience. When I start my very first line, and I'm not talking about my current line, Planet Brooklyn. Before that, I had another line that I had started, and it was fresh out of college. Like right before college, I started creating this line. And what I did was I took a loan out of school for $1,500 right before I graduated, and I put it into creating some shirts. So I wanted to do this fair, so I printed up all these shirts. I may have did about 4 or 5 different designs. The thing is that I wanted to put every graphic and color I could on these shirts. So I did that. The problem is that at that time, the t-shirt price was a lot lower. Today, average t-shirt goes for about $30 to $40. That's the average. When I was selling t-shirts coming out of school, the high end of a t-shirt was normally like $26 to $30. An average t-shirt sold anywhere around $20 to $22. And that's normally just a regular t-shirt. Any brand name t-shirt was, like I said, $25 to $30. That was high end for a t-shirt at the time. My t-shirt, coming right out of college doing my line, was going into the $25, $26 range. And that was because I had 5 colors printed on the front. I had 3 colors on the sleeve, 2 colors on the back. And again, I had 5 to 6 different graphics. This pretty much ate through all the money I had taken from the loan. And then I did the show. I did the trade show, festival. I did the festival. Once I showed it, I ended up not moving a lot of those shirts. I got stuck with so many shirts. And that was due to 2 reasons. One, price, because I had to make back the money I spent on this and make somewhat of a profit. So my price points went way higher. So again, I'm going into that expensive territory of what top brands were doing. And at that time, people were only going to pay top money for top brands. If you were an unknown brand, people aren't going to spend that much. So they were more willing to spend $20, $22 for a shirt. Like I said, my shirt is coming at $25, $26. They didn't want to spend that money. So that was one reason. Second reason was that I never consulted with anybody about my graphics. I didn't show anybody my graphics and say, hey, what do you think about this? Do you like it? Don't you? What do you think I need to change? I just assumed that what I had in my head and what I thought was great, other people were going to love. And people did like it, but they found issues with it after I produced it. And I asked them, why is it that you don't like this? Or what would you change? And I saw the errors in my ways, but it was too late. I'd already spent this money. So needless to say, I got stuck with all these shirts. And in hindsight, I realized I had to cut corners somewhere. So thank God I went back to my printer to print some more shirts. And my printer was nice enough, and I appreciate her for this because she was the first printer I ever worked with. She actually sat me down and showed me where I went wrong with my art and everything in pricing. She didn't have to do that. Hey, I was paying her all this money to print these shirts that didn't move. For all I knew, she could have just said, you know what? I'll just take his money and he can keep pushing out these shirts and they're not going to sell and he's still going to pay me. She actually sat me down and showed me, my errors in my printing, that I didn't need 5 colors on a shirt, on the front of a shirt. She showed me how to do my art where I can only use 1 color and my shirt would make the second color. So I learned a lot from that, and I continued to print with her for a couple of years after that. And then she finally, left the printing business. But she taught me how to use what I had. So my price points dropped considerably. And then I was able to move product after that. So it was a learning curve for me. And this is why I'm sharing this with you, so that when you guys get out there, you don't make this mistake. So don't run out there and try to produce every shirt, get embroideries with silk screens, and then you got to charge this crazy amount for this shirt. And you're not guaranteed that your market or your perceived market is going to buy that. My recommendation is design your line very easily. Pace yourself. Put out some shirts that may be kind of basic. Maybe it's 1 color, maybe it's 2 color. Test your market. Make sure that they're willing to buy that. By the time you do your second season or your second release, now you can, offer more colors or maybe try something different to offer to your market. First, you want to get them in, and once they're in, you can start offering them more. So keep that in mind as you're doing that. Remember, give them a little, let them get into it, and once you bring them in, you give them more. So now you can start expanding with every delivery for every season. You can start, advancing, but don't put everything out at one time. You can kill yourself like that, because again, if you put everything out at one time and it doesn't work, now you got a problem, because now you need to create a second season and you got to get rid of everything you have from your first season. So be conscious of that. Okay, the third thing you need to consider is you got to figure out what is your theme. Every brand needs to have a theme for their line launching. And this is something that I learned when I worked in advertising. So at one time when I worked in advertising for a couple of years, I worked on ABC television and I worked on their ads. And what I learned was that every season before they launch a new show, we had these pitch meetings and we came up with themes for the season for the network. And with that, we would roll that concept into every new show, basically in their advertising. So I took that once I left and went into fashion and started designing my stuff. I started thinking the same way. I said, well, every time I launch a new line, I should have a campaign or a theme that goes with that. Now, when you create these themes and campaigns, you don't necessarily have to advertise it. It could be totally in-house. It could just be you. If you're designing your line by yourself, the theme could be something that only you know about. It helps you basically put your thoughts in order and actually filters out everything that you don't want in your designs. So for example, if you say, all right, this season I'm going to do the Olympics. Olympics is going to be my theme. Well, if you're designing, say, your t-shirts, you can design into your t-shirts based on Olympic themes, but they don't have to be so literal. You don't have to put Olympic things on it, but say maybe you want to take just key things that happen in different Olympics throughout the years and put them on shirts. So maybe one shirt may just have a year on it, and people may not know what that year represents, but it could be the year Jesse Owens won. So there's a story behind that number. And then maybe you do something different on another shirt where it's just a medallion. So people will start to get the theme once they see it, but it doesn't have to be so literal that it's Olympics and you're doing rings on it and things like that. You don't have to be literal. Or you can be more broad with your concept where you want to say, my theme is Hawaii. And then things that you do in your graphics are going to be Hawaiian related. So people will start seeing there is a connection to your pieces, but they may not see the overall theme until they stand back from it and look at it and go, oh, there's a concept here. This is also something that really gets people into your brand, because other than you just creating, random t-shirts of things that you think are hot or that you like, when you have a cohesive story for every delivery, people really get into that and people start seeing it and going like, wow, what is their theme this year? I like this concept that they have. And people start to really buy your product based on your themes you do. And then they get more into that. So they're not even so much about your brand. They're really about what you are producing and creating. They are interested in what you're going to release. What are you going to do next? What is this next theme? What is this next concept? So you need to really sit down and figure out your theme before you release your line. And if you're going to do, say, 6 t-shirts, and this is what your theme is going to be, you really need to be designing 12 to 24 shirts. And this will give you a broad idea of what you can potentially create. And once you look at it, then you can narrow it down to the 6 items you want. A lot of times I do this and I'll create more than what I need. And then what happens is I can actually take those graphics that I didn't use and I can roll them into another delivery or even another season. I can just, tweak them a little bit where it's not about that theme anymore, it's about something else. Or maybe it's the same theme, just now I'm doing more of a fall version of it. So themes are key, and themes help organize your thoughts. They're kind of like mood boards in a sense, where you lay out what your thoughts are. So I do that graphically. So when you put them on a shirt, you think about all the graphics you want to do under that theme, and then you work into it, and that will help you produce better graphics and actually streamline your production. So again, make sure you think about that. Make sure you think about how you release your line. Don't be quick to throw everything out there. And those are the key things that I think that would really help you guys create that first line. Once you have that, I think you're good to go. And then we can start talking more about marketing on the other end of that once you guys get through with that. All right, I hope this was helpful for you guys. As always, if you have any comments or anything, leave them in the comment section below. Again, we make new videos twice a week. So until next time, I catch you guys later. Peace.